The year was 2157. Humans had spread to many star systems beyond Earth. Ji-Ho Kim wiped sweat from his forehead as he fixed a broken air filter on the outside of Colony Dome 3. The small human settlement of Epsilon 6 was quiet today, just the way he liked it. "Hey Ji-Ho, don't forget to check the water recyclers when you're done," called Su-Jin, the Yum Dome manager. She waved from the airlock door. "I'll get to it," Ji-Ho said with a nod. He turned back to his work, his strong hands moving with careful skill. At 43, Ji-Ho was older than most colony workers. His face had lines from years in the sun, and a small scar ran along his jaw. Most people thought he was just a simple maintenance worker. That was exactly what he wanted them to think. 5 years ago, Ji-Ho had left his old life behind. No more Colonel Kim. No more special missions. No more killing. Here on this peaceful frontier colony, he could just be Ji-Ho the Fix-It Man. The sky above Epsilon 6 suddenly flashed with light. Ji-Ho looked up, his eyes narrowing. Through the thin atmosphere, he saw what no one on this colony wanted to see. Ships. Many ships. They were not human ships. The colony alarm began to wail. "Everyone inside," shouted Su-Jin through the colony speakers. "Unknown vessels approaching." Ji-Ho didn't run. He calmly packed his tools and walked to the airlock. Years of training kept his heart rate steady. Inside the main dome, people rushed around in panic. Colony Administrator Hannah Park stood at the command center, her face pale as she looked at the screens. "What do we know?" Ji-Ho asked, standing beside her. "Nothing good," Hannah said. "They're not responding to hails. Configuration doesn't match any known friendly species." The main screen flickered, then showed the face of an alien. Its skin was gray-blue with ridges along the forehead. Yellow eyes with vertical pupils stared at them. "I am General Teklar of the Dralax Empire," the alien said in a deep, rumbling voice. "Your colony is now under our control. Surrender immediately." Hannah stepped forward. "This is Administrator Hannah Park of the human colony Epsilon 6. We are a peaceful settlement. We wish to. Wishes are irrelevant." Teklar interrupted. "The Dralax Empire expands. You are in our path. You will submit or be removed." Ji-Ho studied the alien general. The uniform, the posture, the tone. This was a career military commander, confident and used to quick victories. Ji-Ho had known many like him in his former life. "We need time to discuss your demands," Hannah said, trying to sound calm. General Teklar made a sound like a bark. "There is nothing to discuss. You have 1 hour to prepare for our arrival. We will take what we need." The screen went dark. People in the command center began to talk all at once. Some wanted to fight, others to run. Ji-Ho remained silent, watching. His mind was already working, assessing, planning. "We have weapons in storage," said Tadwan, the colony's security chief. "Not many, but—" "We can't fight that fleet," Hannah said. "There must be 20 ships up there." Outside, the sky darkened as the alien ships moved into lower orbit. Their massive shadows fell across the colony like storm clouds. Ji-Ho walked to the window and looked up. He had come here to escape war. Now war had found him again. "Ji-Ho, check the emergency systems," Hannah ordered, not knowing she was speaking to one of Earth's most decorated Special Forces commanders. "Make sure the backup generators are working." "Yes, Administrator," Ji-Ho said quietly. As he walked away, his hand touched the small surgical scar behind his ear, where his military neural implants lay dormant. He had hoped never to use them again. From his ship, General Teklar watched the small human colony with contempt. These creatures were soft, weak. They had spread too far, too fast. The Dralax Empire would teach them their place. "Prepare a landing party," he ordered his second-in-command. "We will take one hostage to show our power. Then they will see that resistance is pointless." The general smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. These humans will be the easiest conquest yet. How wrong he was. The Dralax landing ship cut through the thin atmosphere of Epsilon 6 like a knife. Its engines roared as it descended toward the colony. Inside the main dome, people watched with fear in their eyes. "Everyone stay calm," Administrator Hannah said over the speakers. "Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage the aliens." Jai-Ho finished checking the backup systems and walked back toward the central plaza. His face showed no emotion, but his mind was racing. He counted the number of exit routes, noted the positions of security cameras, and marked potential weapon locations. The Dralax ship landed just outside the colony's main entrance. Its ramp lowered with a hiss of steam. 6 tall alien soldiers marched out, their armor gleaming in the sunlight. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. "They're coming in," someone shouted. Jai-Ho moved to the side, blending with the crowd. This was not the time to stand out. Not yet. The main airlock doors opened. The Dralax soldiers entered, their heavy boots clanking on the metal floor. Their leader, a scared warrior with rank markings on his armor, looked around with cold yellow eyes. "By order of General Teklar, we require 1 human to come with us," the Dralax leader announced. His voice was harsh through the translator. "This human will represent your colony in discussions with the Empire." Hannah stepped forward. "I am the administrator. I should be the one to go." The Dralax leader laughed, a sound like stones grinding together. "The general does not waste time talking to leaders of weak species. We will choose." The aliens spread out, examining the humans like farmers choosing livestock. Jai-Ho knew what would happen next. The aliens would pick someone who looked weak or scared to break the colony's spirit. Jai-Ho made his decision. He stepped away from the wall where he had been standing and moved into the open. He deliberately fumbled his tool bag, making a loud noise. The Dralax leader turned. "That one," he said, pointing at Jai-Ho. "The maintenance worker." 2 soldiers grabbed Jai-Ho by the arms. He did not resist. "No," Hannah protested. "He's just a worker. Take me instead." "Silence," the Dralax leader snapped. "The choice is made." As they dragged him toward the door, Jai-Ho caught Hannah's eye and gave her a tiny nod. Confusion crossed her face, then understanding. She had seen something in his eyes that others missed. Calm control. "Do not try to rescue him," the alien leader warned. "Any such attempt will result in the death of all colonists." They took Jai-Ho to their ship. As the ramp closed behind them, he memorized every detail of the ship's interior. The layout, the control panels, the number of crew. All information that would be useful later. The ship rose quickly and docked with the massive Dralax flagship in orbit. Jai-Ho was marched through long corridors, past rooms filled with strange technology and more alien soldiers. All the while, he kept his head down, playing the role of a frightened human perfectly. Finally, they reached the command deck. General Teklar sat on a raised platform, looking down at Jai-Ho with contempt. "So this is a human," the general said, standing up. He was taller than the other Dralax, his uniform adorned with medals and symbols of rank. Not very impressive. Jai-Ho kept his eyes on the floor, hiding his careful observation of the room, the guards, the weapons. "Do you have a name, human?" Teklar demanded. "Jai-Ho Kim," he answered softly, making his voice shake slightly. "I fix things at the colony." Teklar laughed. "A repair worker. Perfect. The lowest of your kind will be the example we need." The general walked around Jai-Ho, studying him. "Your colony will surrender completely by tomorrow, or we will send you back in pieces." Jai-Ho said nothing. "Prepare the broadcast," Teklar ordered. "Let the humans see what happens when they delay the inevitable." As the aliens set up their equipment, Jai-Ho felt the old familiar calm wash over him. The calm that came before action. The calm he had felt on 100 battlefields across the stars. General Teklar had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He had chosen the one human on Epsilon 6 who knew exactly how to destroy him. The broadcast began, and Jiho waited for his moment. Back at Epsilon 6, the colonists watched the large screen in the main hall with fear. On it, they could see Jiho standing between two Dralax guards. General Teklar's face filled most of the screen as he made his demands. "You have 24 hours to surrender control of your colony," the alien general said. "If you refuse, this human will suffer before he dies." Hannah Park kept her face calm, though her hands shook slightly. "We need more time to prepare our people," she replied. 24 hours, Tekla repeated. "No more." The screen went black. The colonists began talking all at once, their voices rising in panic. Hannah called for quiet. "We need to think clearly," she said. "There must be something we can do." In the back of the room, a man named Haiwan Li stood up. He was a farmer who rarely spoke at colony meetings, but now his face was serious. "Administrator Park," he said, "may I speak with you privately?" Hannah nodded, and they walked to her office. When the door closed, Taiwan's calm manner changed. "That man they took," he said urgently. "Do you know who Jiho Kim really is?" Hannah looked confused. "He's our maintenance worker. He's been here for 5 years." Taiwan shook his head. "Before he came here, he was Colonel Jiho Kim of Earth Special Forces." Hannah's eyes widened. "What? That's not possible." "I served under him 15 years ago," Taiwan said. "I would know his face anywhere. He was the best military mind I ever saw." In his small cell on the Dralax ship, Jiho sat cross-legged on the floor. His eyes were closed, but his mind was working. He was remembering. Asterisk 10 years earlier asterisk. "Colonel Kim, the enemy base is heavily guarded," said the young lieutenant. "There are at least 50 soldiers and automatic gun turrets." Colonel Jiho Kim looked at the holographic map. His team of just 6 soldiers waited for his orders. "We go in through the waste tunnels," he said calmly. "They won't expect that." "But sir, the tunnels are filled with toxic gas." Jiho tapped his neck where a small implant was visible under his skin. "Our neural implants can filter the toxins for 6 minutes. That's enough time." 3 hours later, the enemy base was under Earth control, and not one of Jiho's soldiers had died. Asterisk 2 years later asterisk. "Your service record is legendary, Colonel," said the general. "But you're requesting retirement. You're only 38. Jiho looked out the window at the Earth military headquarters. "I've seen enough war," he said quietly. "Done enough killing. What will you do?" "Something simple. Something that creates instead of destroys." Asterisk present day asterisk. Jiho opened his eyes. With mental commands, he began activating the dormant systems in his body. Military-grade implants that had been sleeping for 5 years were waking up. First, the neural enhancer at the base of his skull. It would sharpen his senses and speed up his thinking. Next, the muscle boosters along his spine. They would give him strength beyond what the aliens would expect from a human. Jiho felt a slight burning as the systems came online. He controlled his breathing, hiding any sign of pain. Back at the colony, Hannah listened to Taiwan's stories about Colonel Kim's famous missions. "Why is he hiding here as a maintenance worker?" she asked. "The colonel saw too much war," Taiwan explained. "After the Battle of Proxima, where he lost half his team, something changed. He disappeared. Many thought he was dead." Hannah looked at the now blank screen where Jiho had been displayed. "Should we tell the Dralax who they have?" she asked. Taiwan shook his head. "No, that would only make them more careful. Right now, they think they have a simple worker. That's our advantage. What should we do then?" "Follow any instructions Jiho manages to send us," Taiwan said. "And prepare. Because if I know the colonel, he's already planning how to take down that entire alien fleet." Hannah looked doubtful. 1 man against a fleet. Taiwan almost smiled. The Dralax don't know it yet, but they just kidnapped the most dangerous human in this star system. They should have taken anyone else. On the Dralax ship, Jaiho was being taken to see General Teklar again. As the guards pushed him along, he seemed to stumble. The guards laughed at his weakness. They didn't notice that during his stumble, Jaiho had palmed a small tool from a passing technician's belt. The first piece of his plan was now in place. 3 days passed on the Dralax flagship. Jaiho was kept in a small cell when not being questioned or displayed in threatening broadcasts to the colony. But the aliens did not understand what he was doing during these quiet hours. Jaiho sat motionless on the floor of his cell, eyes half closed. To the guard watching through the door slot, he looked defeated. In reality, his enhanced senses were mapping the entire ship. He could hear the hum of the engines 2 decks below. He counted the footsteps of patrol teams in the corridors, timing their rounds. His nose picked up the different scents of the ship: metal, strange alien foods, and the unique smell of Dralax bodies. When they took him to the command deck for broadcasts, his eyes captured every detail of the control panels and weapon systems. His military implants stored all this information, building a complete map of the ship in his mind. "Get up, human," a guard barked, opening the cell door. "General Teklar wants to see you." Jaiho shuffled slowly, keeping his head down. He had learned that moving this way made the guards less careful around him. In the general's quarters, Teklar paced back and forth. The colony still had not surrendered. "Your people are stubborn," Teklar snarled at Jaiho. "Perhaps I need to make my point clearer." He stepped close to Jaiho, towering over him. "Are you afraid, human?" Jaiho kept his eyes down. "Yes," he lied. Teklar laughed. "Good. Fear is the proper response to the Dralax Empire." As the general turned away, Jaiho's eyes quickly scanned the room, noting a weapons locker in the corner and an emergency exit panel behind the desk. "Take him to Science Officer Krell," Teklar ordered the guards. "Let's learn more about human weaknesses." The guards took Jaiho to a different part of the ship. The laboratory was filled with strange equipment. A smaller Dralax with lighter-colored skin stood waiting. "Leave us," Krell said to the guards. When they were gone, he studied Jaiho with interest. "I am to examine your physical capabilities," Krell said. His voice was softer than the other Dralax. "Please sit." Jaiho sat on the examination table, watching Krell carefully. This Dralax was different, curious rather than cruel. Krell ran a scanner over Jaiho's body. The device beeped loudly when it passed over his neck and spine. "Strange," Krell muttered. "These readings are unusual for a mammalian species." Jaiho knew the scanner had detected his implants. This could ruin his plan if the aliens discovered who he really was. "Our colony has radiation in the soil," Jaiho said quickly. "Many of us have unusual tissue readings." Krell looked doubtful, but made notes on his tablet. "Your heart rate is very controlled for someone in captivity," he observed. "I practice meditation," Jaiho explained. "It helps with stress." As Krell continued the examination, Jaiho asked casual questions about the ship and Dralax biology. The young scientist, eager to talk about his knowledge, revealed more than he should have. Jaiho learned that Dralax skin was sensitive to high-frequency sounds. Their eyes could not see well in certain light colors. And most importantly, the ship's main power system had a backup that could be controlled from 3 different locations. "You are cooperative," Krell said when the examination was complete. "Not like what General Teklar said about humans." "Not all humans are the same," Jaiho replied, "just as not all Dralax are the same." Krell tilted his head. "That is an interesting observation." Back at Epsilon 6, Hana and Taiwan prepared the colony's defenses. They had been stalling the Dralax with messages about needing time to prepare for surrender. "The emergency weapons cache is ready," Taiwan reported. "And I've trained 20 colonists on basic military tactics." "Will it be enough?" Hana asked. "Not against their fleet," Taiwan admitted. "But if the colonel makes a move, We need to be ready to help. A young technician ran into the room. Administrator, we're receiving a coded transmission from the Dralax ship. Put it through, Hannah ordered. The message appeared on her screen, a series of numbers that meant nothing to her. It's an old Earth military code, Taiwan said excitedly after studying it. It's from Colonel Kim. What does it say? Hannah asked. Taiwan's face broke into a smile. It says, prepare for chaos. 3 days. Outside the colony, the Dralax ships continued their silent watch, unaware that their prisoner was not what he seemed, and that their time was running out. General Teklar's patience had run out. 5 days had passed, and the human colony still delayed their surrender with excuses and requests for more time. The general pounded his fist on the command console. Enough, he roared. We will show these humans what happens when they defy the Dralax Empire. He turned to his second-in-command. Prepare the human prisoner for public execution. Broadcast it to the colony. They will watch him die. Then they will surrender. Word of the execution spread quickly through the ship. In the science lab, Krell heard the news and frowned. During the past few days, he had spoken often with Jai-Ho, finding the human more intelligent and reasonable than the general claimed. In his cell, Jai-Ho also heard the guards talking about his coming execution. He sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed. It was time. His implants were fully active now. His plan was ready. 4 guards came to take him to the execution chamber. They put heavy restraints on his wrists and ankles. Walk, human, 1 guard ordered, shoving him forward. Jai-Ho stumbled, seeming weak and afraid. The guards laughed. The execution chamber was large, with a raised platform in the center. Cameras were set up to broadcast the event to the colony. General Teklar stood waiting, dressed in his full military uniform with all his medals. Bring him here, the general ordered. The guards pushed Jai-Ho onto the platform and secured his restraints to metal rings on the floor. Teklar stepped forward, drawing a ceremonial blade from his belt. People of Epsilon 6, he began, looking into the camera. Your time for decision is over. Watch as your fellow human dies. Then prepare to welcome your new rulers. Jai-Ho kept his head down. Under his prison clothes, his muscles tensed. His neural implants pumped combat chemicals into his bloodstream. His senses sharpened even further. Time seemed to slow down for him. Any last words, human? Teklar asked, raising his blade. Jai-Ho looked up. For the first time, he allowed the soldiers around him to see his true eyes, the eyes of a predator, not prey. Yes, Jai-Ho said, his voice suddenly strong and clear. You should have checked my implants more carefully. Before anyone could react, Jai-Ho's enhanced muscles snapped the restraints on his wrists like they were made of paper. In one fluid motion, he grabbed Teklar's ceremonial blade and cut his ankle restraints. The guards froze in shock for just 1 second. That was all Jai-Ho needed. He moved with impossible speed, disabling 2 guards with precise strikes to vulnerable points in Dralax anatomy that Krell had unknowingly revealed to him. The 3rd guard raised his weapon, but Jai-Ho was already behind him, using the guard's body as a shield as the 4th guard fired. The shot hit the 3rd guard instead. Jai-Ho grabbed the fallen guard's weapon and fired once, hitting the weapon's control panel on the wall. Alarms blared and emergency lights flashed. General Teklar was backing away, stunned by the sudden change in the supposedly weak human. What are you? He gasped. Jai-Ho didn't answer. He jumped from the platform and ran to the air vent he had identified days ago. He pulled off the cover and slipped inside just as more guards burst into the room. Find him, Teklar roared. Lock down the ship. But Jai-Ho was already crawling through the ventilation system, following the mental map he had created. His first destination, the secondary power control room. On Epsilon 6, the colonists had gathered to watch the execution broadcast. They saw Jai-Ho break free and fight the guards before the transmission was cut. Hannah turned to Taiwan, her eyes wide. It started. Taiwan nodded. That's the colonel I remember. Now we prepare for our part. He turned to the small group of trained colonists. Get to your positions. When the Dralax ships show signs of power disruption, that's our signal. On the Dralax flagship, chaos spread as soldiers searched for the escaped human. General Teklar ordered more troops to guard vital systems and doubled the patrols on every deck. But they were looking for a prisoner trying to escape. They didn't understand that Jai-Ho had no intention of leaving. He was hunting them now. In the darkness of the maintenance tunnels, Jai-Ho prepared his next move. The small tool he had stolen days ago was about to become the first weapon in his one-man war against the Dralax fleet. The Dralax flagship buzzed like a kicked nest. Soldiers ran through every corridor searching for the escaped human. General Teklar stood in the command center, his face dark with rage. How can one human cause such trouble? He shouted at his officers. Find him. But Jai-Ho was not easy to find. He moved through the ship's maintenance tunnels and air ducts like a ghost. The small tool he had stolen was now a makeshift screwdriver. With it, he opened access panels and rewired systems throughout the ship. First, he disabled the sensors in the lower decks. Then he cut power to every third light in the corridors. Small changes, but ones that created confusion and shadows to hide in. In a quiet corner of Deck 7, Jai-Ho found what he needed, a communication terminal used by maintenance workers. He quickly connected wires from his neural implant to the terminal. His military training included hacking enemy systems, and his implants contained codes that still worked. Let's see what I can access, he whispered to himself. His fingers flew over the alien keyboard. To his surprise, he found he could tap into the ship's internal sensors. He couldn't control them, but he could see what they saw, including the positions of search teams looking for him. Jai-Ho smiled for the first time since his capture. Now he could avoid the patrols and move freely through most of the ship. On the command deck, an alarm sounded. Someone is accessing our internal network, a technician reported. The human? Teklar asked. Impossible, said the security chief. No human could understand our systems. Seal off all network access points, Teklar ordered, and double the guards on the communication centers. But Jai-Ho had already disconnected, taking valuable information with him. In the science lab, Krell worked alone. The door slid open, and he turned, expecting to see guards. Instead, Jai-Ho stood there. Krell reached for the alarm button, but Jai-Ho was faster. I'm not here to hurt you, Jai-Ho said quickly. Krell's hand hovered over the button. Why should I believe you? Because if I wanted to hurt you, I already would have, Jai-Ho said simply. I need information, not violence. Krell slowly lowered his hand. What kind of information? Are there other humans on this ship? For study or testing? Krell hesitated, then nodded. 3 were captured from a small transport ship last week. They are in the holding cells on Deck 4. Jai-Ho's face hardened. Thank you for telling me the truth. What will you do? Krell asked. What I was trained to do, Jai-Ho replied. Complete the mission and protect my people. He turned to leave, then looked back. When things get chaotic, stay in this lab. It will be safer. Jai-Ho made his way to Deck 4, avoiding patrols using his new knowledge of their movements. The holding cells were guarded by 2 soldiers. He waited in the shadows for his moment. When one guard left to make his rounds, Jai-Ho struck. He used a high-pitched sound device he had created from ship parts, a sound that caused pain to Dralax's hearing. The remaining guard fell to his knees, clutching his head. Jai-Ho knocked him unconscious and took his access card. Inside the cells, he found 3 scared humans, 2 men and a woman wearing the uniforms of a mining company. Who are you? One man asked. Jai-Ho Kim. I'm getting you out of here. There are hundreds of soldiers on this ship, the woman said. How can we escape? We're not escaping yet, Jai-Ho explained. First, we're going to create a distraction big enough to help our colony. He handed them tools he had collected. "Can you follow instructions and stay calm under pressure?" They nodded. "Good. Then let's turn this ship upside down." On Epsilon 6, Hannah received another coded message. She showed it to Tai-1. "What does it say?" she asked. "Fleet communication system vulnerable. Prepare to jam signals on my mark." Tai-1 smiled. "He's setting up for the main attack. Can we do that? Jam their signals?" "With the mining colony's equipment, yes. For a short time." Hannah looked at the Dralax ships visible in the night sky. "Will it be enough?" "For the Colonel, yes." Tai-1 checked his weapon. "He doesn't need much to win, just a small opening." Aboard the flagship, General Teklar didn't realize that his confident hunt for one human had turned into something else entirely. He was no longer the hunter. He was the hunted. 2 days had passed since Jaiho escaped. The Dralax flagship was in a state of constant alert. Strange malfunctions occurred throughout the ship. Doors opening and closing on their own, communications cutting out, oxygen levels changing in different sections. General Teklar had not slept. His perfect yellow eyes were now bloodshot and wild. Officers approached him with caution, afraid of his growing rage. "Sir," one brave officer said, "we should investigate the human more thoroughly. His abilities seem unusual." Teklar growled, but nodded. "Do it. Find out who this Jaiho Kim really is." In the ship's database center, the officer searched through Earth military records that the Dralax had collected during their expansion. At first, he found nothing. Then he tried searching for Colonel Kim instead of Jaiho Kim. The screen filled with information. The officer's eyes widened as he read. Meanwhile, Jaiho and the 3 rescued humans worked from a hidden maintenance room they had converted into a base. The woman, Mina, had been a communications engineer. One man, Dal, was a power systems technician. The other, Han, had security training. "The main engine control room is here," Jaiho said, pointing to a map he had drawn. "We need to create a power surge big enough to cause a temporary blackout, but not so big it damages life support." "I can do that," Dal said, "but we'll need to access the main power junction, which is heavily guarded," Han added. Jaiho nodded. "That's why we need a diversion." He turned to Mina. "Can you broadcast a false order to the guards?" "If I can get to a command terminal, yes," she answered. Jaiho checked the time on a small device he had built. "We move in 3 hours. The colony will be jamming external communications then." As they prepared, Jaiho felt his implants warn him of increasing stress levels. He had been pushing his body hard, with little sleep or food, but there was no time to rest. On the command deck, the officer rushed in with his findings. "General, the human, he's not a simple worker." Teklar grabbed the data pad and read it. His face changed from anger to disbelief. "Colonel Jaiho Kim," he read aloud. "Special Forces Commander, veteran of 17 major conflicts, expert in sabotage, infiltration, and psychological warfare." The general looked up at his officers. "We didn't capture a worker. We captured one of Earth's most decorated military commanders." A cold feeling spread through the room. The Dralax Empire had faced Earth forces before, but usually in direct battle, ship against ship. They had never dealt with a special forces operator loose on their own vessel. "Find him now," Teklar roared. All soldiers on full alert. Jaiho and his team moved carefully through the ship's lower decks. They had created makeshift weapons and communication devices. Each person knew their role in the plan. "Dal and Han, head for the power junction," Jaiho said. "Mina, the communication terminal is 2 decks up. I'll clear the way for you." As they separated, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. A voice boomed over the speakers. "Attention all personnel. The human prisoner is identified as Colonel Jaiho Kim, an Earth military commander. He is extremely dangerous. Shoot on sight. Repeat, shoot on sight." Jaiho smiled grimly. They finally figured it out. He moved faster now, no longer needing to hide his abilities. Two guards appeared ahead. Jiho disabled them with quick, efficient strikes before they could fire their weapons. More guards came around the corner. Jiho grabbed a metal pipe from the wall and charged. In the engine room, a massive explosion shook the ship. Emergency lights came on as the main power failed. General Teklar stumbled as the floor beneath him trembled. "What happened?" he shouted. "Power surge in the main junction," an engineer reported. "Backup systems activating, but it will take 5 minutes." In those 5 minutes of darkness and confusion, Jiho made his move. He fought his way to the command deck, using his knowledge of Dralak's weaknesses and his enhanced strength. When the lights came back on, General Teklar turned to find Jiho standing in the doorway of the command center. The human held a Dralak's weapon, and behind him lay a dozen unconscious guards. "Hello, General," Jiho said calmly. "I think it's time we talked properly." Soldier to soldier. Teklar stared at the human who had thrown his entire ship into chaos. "What are you?" he asked again. "Just a human," Jiho replied. "But you picked the wrong one." General Teklar stood frozen, staring at the human who had single-handedly thrown his ship into chaos. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something close to fear. "You cannot hope to win," Teklar said, trying to sound confident. "Even if you control this ship, the rest of my fleet will destroy your colony." Jiho stepped further into the command center, the Dralak's weapon steady in his hand. "Your fleet follows your orders, General. And right now, you're going to give them new orders." Teklar's officers reached for their weapons, but Jiho was faster. He fired quick shots that disabled their guns without harming them. "I don't want to kill anyone," Jiho said calmly. "That's the difference between us." A voice came through Jiho's makeshift communicator. It was Mina. "Colonel, I'm at the communications terminal. Ready when you are." "Good," Jiho replied. "Stand by." At that moment, Dal and Han arrived at the command center door, both carrying Dralak's weapons. "Engine room is secure," Dal reported. "We've locked out the controls from other terminals." Jiho nodded, then turned back to Teklar. "Contact your fleet. Tell them to move back from the colony." The general's face hardened. "I will die before I give such an order." "No one needs to die," Jiho said. "But your ships will move away from Epsilon 6. Whether you give the order or I do is your choice." Down on Epsilon 6, Hana and Ta-1 watched the Dralak ships through the colony's main telescope. For days, the ships had held position, weapons trained on the colony. But now, something was happening. "Look," Ta-1 pointed. "The flagship's weapon systems are powering down." Hana's communicator beeped. A message appeared. "Now." She turned to the colony's communications team. "Activate the jammers and launch our ships." Throughout the colony, hidden preparations came to life. The jammers they had built from mining equipment powered up, blocking communications between the Dralak ships. And from a hidden hangar, 6 small defensive ships rose into the air. These weren't warships. They were modified mining vessels and transport shuttles, but each carried weapons that had been secretly stored for emergencies. Ta-1 climbed into the lead ship. "Remember the plan," he told the volunteer pilots. "Hit and run. Don't engage directly. Just create confusion." The small fleet of colony ships raced toward the surprised Dralak's vessels. On the flagship's command deck, Jiho felt the ship shake as something hit their shields. "What was that?" Teklar demanded. Jiho checked the ship's sensors. He smiled when he saw the colony ships attacking. "That's our signal." He pressed a button on his communicator. Mina broadcast the message now. Throughout the Dralak's fleet, a strange transmission began playing on all channels. It was a recording of General Teklar's voice, created from clips Mina had gathered, ordering all ships to power down weapons and fall back. At the same time, Jiho accessed the flagship's weapons controls. With expert precision, he fired at 2 Dralak ships, not to destroy them, but to disable their engines. "What are you doing?" Teklar shouted. "Creating uncertainty," Jai-Ho answered. "Your fleet now faces 3 problems: confused orders, attacks from the colony, and fire from their own flagship. What would you do in their position?" The answer came quickly. On the view screen, they watched as the Dralax ships began to break formation, some moving away from the colony, others turning to face what they thought was a flagship under enemy control. "Your military doctrine teaches strict hierarchy," Jai-Ho explained. "When the chain of command breaks, your soldiers don't know how to adapt." Teklar's face showed growing horror as his perfect battle plan collapsed into chaos. "But how did you know our transmissions codes? Our ship systems?" he asked. Krell entered the command center, looking nervous but determined. "I helped him, General. Not intentionally at first, but then by choice." Jai-Ho nodded to the scientist. "Not all Dralax want war. Krell showed me that." Outside, the colony's small ships darted between the confused Dralax vessels, firing quick shots then moving away. They couldn't win a direct battle, but they didn't need to. The Dralax fleet was already defeating itself through confusion and friendly fire. Jai-Ho turned to Teklar. "Now, General, about that surrender we need to discuss." 3 days later, Jai-Ho stood with Hana and Taiwan in the colony's main hall. Around them, colonists celebrated their unexpected victory. Outside, most of the Dralax ships had retreated. Only the flagship remained, now landed near the colony. "I still can't believe it worked," Hana said, shaking her head. "1 man against an entire fleet." "Not just 1 man," Jai-Ho corrected her. "Everyone played a part. You, Taiwan, the rescued prisoners, even Krell." Taiwan smiled. Still the same Colonel Kim, never taking full credit. Jai-Ho looked uncomfortable at the mention of his military rank. Many colonists now looked at him differently, with awe or curiosity. He missed the simple days when he was just the maintenance worker. "What will happen to the Dralax now?" Hana asked. "Their leadership will change," Jai-Ho answered. "General Teklar has lost face. The Dralax respect strength, but they also recognize when they've been outthought." Outside the colony dome, the Dralax flagship sat silently. Inside it, General Teklar was facing the reality of his defeat. He sat in his quarters, surrounded by the medals and honors of his long military career. None of them mattered now. The door opened, and Krell entered. "The human wishes to speak with you, General." Teklar looked up with tired eyes. "Send him in." Jai-Ho entered the room, no longer a prisoner, but not quite a victor either. He carried himself with the quiet confidence that had always been there, though hidden before. "What more could you want?" Teklar asked bitterly. "You have defeated me completely." "I didn't come to celebrate victory," Jai-Ho said, sitting across from the general. "I came to talk about what happens next." "I will be removed from command, possibly executed," Teklar said. "Our military does not forgive failure." Jai-Ho shook his head. "That would be a waste." "What do you mean?" "The greatest generals learn more from defeat than victory," Jai-Ho explained. "I studied your tactics, your strategies. You're an excellent commander, but you have one weakness." "And what is that?" Teklar asked, curious despite himself. "You see other species as inferior," Jai-Ho said simply. "That blinds you to their strengths." The general was quiet for a long moment. "Perhaps there is truth in that." Jai-Ho stood. "The Earth government will send diplomats soon. They'll want to establish formal relations with the Dralax Empire. They'll need military advisors who understand both sides." "You suggest I should help?" Teklar asked in surprise. "I suggest we both help," Jai-Ho replied. "I understand war, General, but peace is harder." 1 month later, life at Epsilon 6 had mostly returned to normal. The colony had grown famous across human space as the small outpost that defeated a Dralax fleet. Military ships now protected it, and new colonists arrived daily. Jai-Ho returned to his maintenance job, despite offers of military positions and honors. One morning, as he fixed a water recycler, Administrator Hannah found him. "The diplomatic team is here," she said. "They're asking for you." Jai-Ho sighed. "Tell them Colonel Kim died in the battle. Ji-Ho, the maintenance worker, is too busy fixing important equipment." Hannah smiled. "I've been telling them that, but they're persistent. Also, there's someone else asking for you." To Jai-Ho's surprise, General Teklar walked up behind Hannah. The Drelax looked different. His uniform was simpler, and he carried himself with less arrogance. "Colonel Kim," Teklar said. "Or do you prefer Jai-Ho now?" "Just Ji-Ho is fine," he answered. "What brings you back here?" "The Diplomatic Council wants both of us to help draft the peace treaty," Teklar explained. "They feel we have unique perspective." Jai-Ho looked down at his dirty hands and worn work clothes. Then he looked at the colony around him, the people he had protected, the home he had defended. "I guess some things are worth putting down the tools for," he said finally. As they walked toward the meeting, Teklar asked, "Do you ever miss it? The military life?" Jai-Ho thought for a moment. "Sometimes, but I've learned there are many ways to serve." The Drelax nodded slowly. "Yes, that is perhaps the most important lesson you have taught me." Above them, Earth ships and Drelax vessels orbited peacefully together. Where once there had been the threat of war, now there was the beginning of understanding. All because one alien general had picked the wrong human. The end.